Hello everyone and welcome back to week 3 of Empowered National Interdisciplinary Research Program 2026. My name is Alina Zaid Usmani and I'll be your mentor for today's lecture. Before we begin, let's quickly mark today's attendance. Please pause this video and drop a comment including your full name. Once you have done that, you can continue watching. Okay, so let's begin with a quick recap of what we learned in the last week. In week 3, we discussed how to write a background section of your research paper. We learned that the background introduces readers to your topic by explaining what it is, why it's important, defining important concepts, and discussing previous research related to your study. Okay, now imagine you have finishing writing the background. Your reader now understands your topic and why it's important. But the next question they will ask naturally is, so what exactly is this study trying to find out? That's where the introduction comes in. So today's lecture is about writing an effective introduction for your research paper. By the end of this session, you will understand what an introduction should include, how to make it interesting, and how to clearly present your hypothesis so readers immediately understand the purpose of your research. So, why is an intro important? Most of you probably written essays before. Think about how you usually begin an essay. You don't immediately jump into main point. First you do the brainstorming. Instead you first introduce the topic and give the readers a reason to keep reading. So, a research paper works exactly the same way. The introduction is your first opportunity to capture your readers' attention. It tells readers what your study is about and prepares them for everything they will read next. Think of a novel writer who introduces their characters of novel so that the reader's attention can be grabbed. Same goes for your introduction. So the introduction. A good introduction does three important things. First, it gives the reader a clear idea of what your papers will investigate. Second, it explains why your research is relevant and worth reading. And the last, finally, it clearly states your research question or hypothesis so readers knows exactly what you are trying to investigate. Think of it like watching a movie trailer. A good trailer does not reveal the entire story, but it gives you just enough information to make you interested in watching the full movie. Similarly, your introduction should make reader interested in continuing with the rest of your paper. So, what are the parts of introduction? Writing an introduction becomes much easier when you break it into simple 4 parts. What are the 4 parts? First, introduce your topic. Tell readers what your research is about in a simple and natural way. Second, provide context. Okay, explain how your topic connects to a broader issue. Ask yourself who is affected by this problem. Why does it matter beyond just this study? So we have to study the practical life also. Third, show the significance of your research. Convince reader that your topic is worth studying and that your research can contribute something meaningful. And finally, the fourth point, state your hypothesis. This is where you can clearly tell readers what relationship you can expect to find in your study. Remember that your hypothesis is about correlation, not causation. You're predicting a relationship between variables, not claiming that one directly causes the other. So let's talk about the step 1 and step 2 in detail. The beginning of your introduction should immediately capture the reader's attention. This is called a hook. Think about books on YouTube videos. If the first few seconds are interesting, people stop watching the video or stop reading the book. Your research paper is no different. So there are many ways to write a good hook. You can start with an interesting question and important statistics or a surprising fact reveal that hook the attention of your reader. Let's look at the examples of the slide. The first example asks just how much screen time is too much for an elementary school age children. Notice how this immediately makes readers curious even before reading the rest of the paper. They start thinking about the answer, that exactly what a good hook should do. It makes readers want to continue the rest of the paper. The second example says the rise of social media has been accompanied by a sharp increase in the prevalence of body image issues among young women and the girls. Instead of asking a question, this hook begins with an important observation. It immediately introduces a real world issue and encourages readers to think about the possible connection between the social media and the body image. Now, however, there is one important thing to remember. Don't just include an interesting fact and move on. Always explain why the fact relates to your own research. For example, if your research is about social media and sleep quality, you might mention that teenagers today spend several hours each day on social media, but after starting that fact, explaining why it's matter, you could say that increased screen time may influence sleep habits, which is why your study investigates this relationship. Your hook should naturally guide readers towards your own research topic instead of feeling unrelated. So, after introducing your topic, the next step explaining why anyone should care about it. Imagine someone asks you, why did you choose this research topic? If your answer is simply because I found it interesting, that's probably not enough. Instead, think about the bigger picture. Who could benefit from this research paper? What problem does it help understanding, and why is this issue important? So, for example, if you are studying stress among students, you can explain that stress affects student mental health, academic performance, and overall well-being. Of course, understanding the factor associated with the stress may help schools and the educators better supporting students. Notice that you are not discussing your result yet. You are simply explaining why your student deserves attention. If the readers don't understand why a research matter, they may lose interest before even starting their research paper and jumping on the result. That's why explaining the significance of your study is such an important part of an introduction. Moving on to the final step. The final part of your introduction is stating your hypothesis. By this point, readers already know your topic and understand why it's important. Now it's time to tell them exactly what you are investigating. Remember from week 1 that a hypothesis is simply your prediction about the relationship between two variables. For example, if your research studies social media use and academic performance, your hypothesis might be greater social media use is correlation with lower academic performance. Or if you are studying physical activities and age, your hypothesis might be physical activities levels are correlated with participants' age. Notice that these hypotheses don't claim that one variable caused the other. They simply predict that a relationship exists. After stating your hypothesis, briefly explain why you made that prediction. You don't need a long explanation, just one or two sentences is enough. For example, you might write the previous studies have suggested this relation, or that observations from everyday life led you to make this prediction. Remember, your introduction is only introducing your research. You will discuss your evidence and results much later in the paper. So these are the four main steps of writing an introduction. Let's quickly put everything together. A good introduction flows naturally from one idea to the next. It starts with an interesting hook that captures attention of the reader. Then it introduces the topic and provides something context so reader can understand what the study is about. Next, it explains why this topic is important and why the research matter. And finally, the last, it clearly states the hypothesis and briefly explains why the research expects that relationships. Okay, so notice that the introduction does not include details, method, results, or conclusion. Those sections comes later. The introduction simply prepares readers for what ahead and gives them a clear understanding of the purpose of the study. The example on this slide right here demonstrate this overall structure. Use it only as a guide to understand and how an introduction is organized. Do not copy any part of it and into your own paper. Okay, so that's bring on us to the end of this lecture. For this week's assignment, you will write the introduction section of your own research paper using the 4 steps we discussed today. Remember to begin with an engaging hook, provide context, explain the significance of your topic, and conclude what your hypothesis and brief justification. And please do not repeat the words. If you have any questions while compiling your assignment and completing your assignment, don't hesitate to ask your mentors on Discord. Feel free to sign up for the live query session this weekend if necessary. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture. Good luck for your writing.